So, welcome to the Bearfoot Studios, or Bearfoot Miniatures, rundown of the Cinderak burning campaign for Necromunda. And hopefully today you are seeing it in dual camera format, which will allow you to see the top-down, which I'm rubbing the book, the top-down view of the book as we go along. Big thanks and shout out to Dom, who used to be with me on the Road to Terror podcast, as well as having his own YouTube channel, MetaView. It's in a slight lull at the moment because he's away travelling, hence the borrowed camera. Hopefully it will just slightly increase the quality of these videos and your ability to follow along at home as we go along. And that's why you might see me looking up, because I'm terrified that everything is going to come crashing down in this review as I go through. So, Cinderak Burning is all about the wider universe's effects on Necromunda as it goes through the Great Rift, and it's one of the first of I think they say a run of 12 campaign books as Games Workshop, of which they're going to go through various events, and I'm actually really looking forward to that. I like the idea of having arbitrator style guides to various campaigns. I'm going to give a brief overview of the story and what's going to kick that off. I'll leave it up to everyone at home to read that themselves because I don't want spoilers on the episode. But basically what happens is the rift happens across the galaxy, and its effect on Necromunda is to throw everything into chaos as the hives power down and struggle to come back to life. All of the cores, the machinery that work the hive, such as the Promethean fires, everything to do with electricity goes down, so you have this time of darkness that affects the hive. You then get the restoration of control and the then succession to the Helmwar throne, as there has been an attempt to Lord Helmar's life and he's put in stasis. Now, one thing about this fluff is it takes up about a third of the book, which is a good thing, I think, actually. Advancing storylines I like. It provides a framework for us to play because it actually isn't anything without major arbitrator involvement beyond the scope of this book that the players are going to be playing in directly. What we're going to be playing in is the events that surround and involve the house gangs. So about a third of the book is taken up with the fluff for the succession, and it centres around the 13th daughter's, the 13th true-born daughter, Asteria Helmwar, is the campaign's focus. Asteria Helmwar, and then she's called Lady Hera and is a house agent available to gangs on one side of the campaign. Now, the actual succession campaign is laid out how we have all become used to playing Necromunda campaigns. It's 2 phases of 3 weeks with a week downtime in the middle. I think it's a good format, but maybe I would like to see Games Workshop branch out a bit more and give us a different format than essentially what amounts to territory controls, which are controlling sympathisers of the claimants. I would just like to see that mould broken a little bit with how they would do a story-driven campaign. How I would do that is beyond the scope of this video, but it just slightly feels at first glance like it will be playing a Dominion campaign with different names. Now, what do I actually like about the campaign? They more specifically set out how you would issue and accept challenges, how multi-week or multiple games within a cycle affect each player, in that only the primary game affects each player in terms of income and rep and things like that, which my own campaign is doing at the moment, so I'm obviously a great fan of. You then have the Great Darkness phase, which is the first 3 cycles of the campaign, and gangs, once built initially, can no longer re-equip from their house equipment list during the post-battle sequence, and cannot recruit new fighters or crew, which is massive. It's really punishing, really restrictive. I love that they've really gone that far out with this campaign, in that you'll be spending all your money at the trading post for that first bit. Now, in the trading post, all items, including in the black market, are increased rarity by 4. So it's really quite restrictive. You're probably going to be limited to common items unless you are particularly lucky. What is it? Rarity 8 is going to be your maximum for the first 3 weeks of the campaign. Now, here's where it gets really, really crazy. All Sector Mechanicus and Zone Metalis battles have the pitch black rules in effect. Ash Waste battles take place during the changing seasons, which is one of the, I believe, harsher Ash Waste zones. It's got more storms in. It can actually feature things from both types of season, the season of Ash and the season of Fire. And only unclaimed sympathizers may be claimed as rewards for battles. Now, that is basically only unclaimed territories can be claimed as rewards. Having the increased rarity and not being able to re-equip from your house and only being able to equip off the trading post, I really, really like. It's similar to what we're doing at the moment in a Ghastly Prospects campaign, which is the current campaign on the channel. And it's also similar, other than the... Obviously, you can get new gangers in our campaign. It's also similar not being able to equip from your house list on the really successful Goonhammer, the Lost Zone rules, which may have been inspiration for this. It's definitely been inspiration in our Ghastly Prospect campaign on the channel. And I really like it. I really like how these campaigns are getting more towards harsher measures and really changing the dynamics of gang construction. So then you have the classical downtime, which you get 250 credits, and then go into the Spark the Rebellion phase, which is crazily not on the next page. So in the Spark Rebellion phase, that's 3 cycles, no restriction on adding new models to the gang roster, items from the trading post and black market revert to normal rarity, and it doesn't actually specify you can add new weapons and equipment from your gang roster. So potentially you can only ever equip from the trading post, which is a really cool thing. Pitch black are no longer automatically used, just used as normal. So this is more of an all-out war style phase as the rebellion really heats up. I like it. I do. I like the campaign. As I said, it suffers a little bit from always being in that same mould of gaining territories, essentially. Maybe a vote system, like you don't gain a territory of the house, you would just win votes with that house or influence within those sympathizers, and then at the end of the whole thing you count up sympathizers within those. Maybe that could be something different. But on the face of it, I like it. So when you've got to choose sides within this campaign, and it's like in the Ruination campaign where you've got order and chaos. Now in this you have aligning with the Imperial House, staying unaligned, and joining Lady Credo's rebellion, who is the House Ranlow rebel lord. Now, joining the Imperial House, on a 4+, you may recruit one of the Dramatis Personae at no additional cost. Knis, the Chem Mother from the House of Blades book in the Escher rules, and Lady Hera, the 13th daughter of Lord Helmar, and she is also a really good character. So you get that, and that's going to be repeated through other sides that you get those Dramatis Personae on the 4+. You also get the Deep Pockets rule. When generating income from sympathizers, add an additional D6 times 10 creds to your stash. And that's when generating, not per sympathizer, which I initially read it as. So the benefits of unaligned. So you get Lookout for Your Own, which is the 4+. You gain Gorshiv Hammerfist, who is the new Goliath special character. And you get Jangar Gunfists from the House of Chains book. Margot Medina, the Orlok Road boss from Dry Sea. And Vesper Mint Medina, the other Orlok Road boss in this book. we stand for ourselves. The model that takes the enemy leader out of action in your gang, if you do, gains an extra D3 experience points, which is really good, I think. And you get take a side. During the post-battle sequence, the gang may choose to align themselves with the Imperial House or the Rebellion. You can't actually change if you're already to one side or the other. If you control gang sympathizers, then they must choose to align themselves with one of these factions. So don't choose the gang sympathizers thing if you want to stay unaligned. You then get the benefits of Lady Credo's Rebellion. Now, during the pre-game sequence, 4+, blah blah blah, you gain Etheria and Styx, who is the Escher second in command, sort of like brutal killer, and her lucky charm, Styx, basically gains her an ignorable wound at every turn, and Lady Credo, the rebel lord herself. Each time you win a battle, you also gain +1 rep in addition to any granted by the scenario. So, actually, that is going to make you really likely to win the legendary status triumph at the end of the campaign. It's most likely going to be done by someone in Lady Credo's Rebellion. Actually, the outcome of this is already laid down in this book, in the rules. So actually you're playing like a historical battle sort of campaign. Now I'm not going to go over all the sympathizers because there are pages of them, but there are some really strong ones in there. In the pre-game sequence, choose to give D3 weapons, +2 strength, unstable and reckless for the duration of the battle. So your bolt gun could become strength 6. There is Dregs of the Hive sympathizers, which I'm not sure how much that matters in a Necromunda rebellion, how much they care about the Dregs input, but you gain D3 Hive scum to the crew for the duration of a battle. So that's every single battle you can gain up to 3 Hive scum. So the creds are going to be going absolutely everywhere during this campaign. This is actually one where I'd recommend alliances to be used because it really fits, I think. Limiting someone to alliances with houses that they've already got sympathies for, or places such as the Water Guild or Air Guild, House Ranlow. Having alliances there I think really works. Normally I'm not a massive fan of them, but I think it works here. So then on to the next piece, we're going to have the narrative scenarios. And this I think is if you're not an Orlok player, a Goliath player or Escher player, this is key to the book. It's going to be historical battle type scenarios. You yourself are going to be playing them in the course of the campaign with your own gang. And they also, to the side here, have a portion where you can essentially play like how it was meant to be played. And it doesn't give too much input on that, but say the Fall of the Bad Zones outpost is a bad one. But let's say, where is the bar defense? So say in the bar defense scenario, you get shoot out of the Lucky Six specifically, which you use Margot Medina and 3 Orlok road captains to represent Mindy, Vivian and Vesper Medina. And the attacker will be Goliath Gang, and it actually changes the rules slightly within that bar defense. But yeah, that's just an example. Each of these I'd really actually recommend for an arbitrator. They've got some really fun mechanics in there. I think they'd be really good for multiplayer scenarios, specific arbitrator scenarios, as I said. They have some wildly unbalanced ones potentially, but I think, say like the assassin, where one gang gets an assassin that activates every time another ganger from the opposing side activates. Sort of like the Birth of a Death Maiden scenario from the Escher book. You have an escape scenario where you escape from a prison, essentially, which is quite good. Good if you want to be playing like raids on police outposts. You've got the House of Pain, which is essentially a pit fight with other gangs being involved around the outskirts, but everything really comes down to the outcome of the pit fight, which I think is a nice touch. We might be using that in our Ghastly Prospects campaign. You have the bar defense, where it's only on a 2x2, so actually really small. So people are coming into the bar, you get custom selection 4 versus D3 plus 3, which is potentially horrendously good for the defenders who get custom 4, because you can just pick your 4 best fighters. Now these aren't the most balanced scenarios, so I think they are best limited to arbitrator scenarios and not just played all the time. But I think they add that nice bit of flavour, and here again we can actually see the really nice artwork that has been done for the book. And that is one thing across this book, is really good artwork that gives you a vibe of Necromunda and what it's like on the wider world. Now going into the additional rules section, we get additional rules for Escher and additional rules for Goliaths. And that's essentially it. You get the vehicle tactics for Escher and vehicle tactics for Goliaths, which I'm sure will be out soon in gang tactic form, like card form. But it boils down to Eschers gain their cutters, which are the jet bikes that they have. Now it counts as a normal mounted condition, except you can ignore all terrain when you move and move between levels without restriction, and you move 9 inches rather than 8. You also ignore the 1 inch rule of moving within engagement range of people, ignoring passable terrain, this and that. You can buy on the bike a twin link grenade launcher with frag and crack for 75 creds, twin linked heavy stubbers for 200 creds, and twin link plasmas for 110 creds. Now, twin linked heavy stubbers for 200 creds or twin linked plasma guns for 110 creds, I definitely know which way I would be leaning on that one. The grenade launcher's sort of in there as well because it's 75 and grenade launchers are great. But between the heavy stubber and plasma, I know which way I'd be going. Gas trap launchers, basically everyone on a cutter gains a gas trap that they can deploy as a double action. And they take a double action, deploy a gas trap within 1 inch of their base, and then can move up to their movement characteristic. Now, I really like this for rolling road scenarios. I think they are hampered by the fact that you can turn at any point during your move with a vehicle, so you can actually just turn, move around it and turn again with your second action. So I do think they're hampered by that, but I like the idea. I like how they get to places really fast and have the ability to lay these mines. It's a good piece of war gear. You don't have to do this action, so it's not too much of a downside that it's bad, but I don't think it's the best. I like it, but I don't think it's the absolute best. I don't like traps in Necromunda scenarios, really. The overall cost of that bike is going to be at minimum 160 creds as well, because you've got to take one of the weapons. So it is magnifying the points cost within your gang. You're only going to be able to start with 2 if you're playing with the 400 credits from the Outland scenarios, which is a bit of a shame, but I suppose taking everyone on a motorbike for 50 creds each is still an option, and it's actually probably one which I will be exercising rather than using these bikes. So Eschers also gain a Hellion crew. Now these can't actually go on the bikes because they are just vehicle crew. They get BS4, Leadership 7, Cool 7, Will 7, Intelligence 7. Solid, not bad across the board. Say solid, it's not particularly special. They have 30 creds. They have the Leadership and Shooting secondaries, Savant and Driving primaries. And access to Savant as primary is actually really, really good here. It's driving primary is obvious because they're drivers. They can be equipped with Ridge Runners, Rock Grinders and Wolf Quads. So any other vehicle and custom vehicles, they're limited to those. Fairly standard. They're the ones that you would choose. I wouldn't really choose a Wolf Quad at this point. I'd choose a Cutter But the Ridge Runner and Rock Grinder are really solid choices, being like a medium vehicle and a heavy vehicle that are cheaper than any custom vehicles you're going to make that are equivalents. They have access to pistols, which are fairly skippable because you own a vehicle. Take the heavy weapons. And you also get bio boosters, filter plugs, photo goggles, respirator. Now, photo goggles are going to be super useful in the ash waste because it allows you to ignore ash storms a bit more. The respirators, filter plugs, bio boosters are much more secondary than them photo goggles. So I'd largely skip them, if I'm being completely honest. Like, your vehicles other than wolf quads are going to be toughness 5 at least. So because you always fail on a 6, the respirator and filter plugs become largely useless because you're already failing on a 6. So going over to the Goliaths, you get the Goliath Road Thug, which is 25 credits, so actually really cheap for what it does. You get BS4, Leadership 8, Cool 5, Will 9, Intelligence 8. So Juve stats, because they're Goliath, so stupid, except for Cool, which is really good. Now, obviously the handling is set by the vehicle. I think I've seen it somewhere that someone was saying they won't be starting things again very easily, but that's on handling. I believe you get Leadership secondary, Savant secondary, Shooting primary, Driving primary. And I actually think Shooting being primary makes them better than the Escher crew, which are 30 credits. Now, that is because, although Savant is very good, I like it in that it gives Eschers better access to Savant. Shooting is just so good of a skill set, and having it on Goliaths here, because they can't get it anywhere else, just magnifies them into a shooting gang so much more. Now, you won't be gaining mass benefits of your high toughness as Goliath, because obviously road crew don't do that. They've got the cool of Goliaths, but they're definitely worth taking over scum racers 100% without even thinking about it. Now, they have access to custom vehicles, Ridge Runners, Rock Grinders, Wolf Quads, and the Goliath Mauler. So we'll get onto the Goliath Mauler in a sec. As I said before, with the Eschers, Wolf Quads would actually make you, I believe, less toughness than a regular ganger, so I wouldn't take that ever as a Goliath. It's sort of devaluing yourself. As I said, he's the same options really as everyone else: Ridge Runner, Rock Grinder, custom vehicle. Pistols, again, are pistols, don't bother. Photo goggles, again, 35 creds, or filter plugs, respirators, not worth it. And yeah, I think they're a really good addition to Goliath gangs for that, giving that cool value that the rest of the gang really enjoys to the Goliath gang on their vehicles. It makes them a lot fluffier, that you don't have to stick to these crew, which are scum and, what is it, cool 8 on a Hive scum racer. You then get the Goliath Mauler for 100 creds as a vehicle. You get movement 7, which is good. Front 5, side rear 4, 3 HP, 5 plus handling, 5 plus save. So it's halfway really between a Wolf Quad and a Ridge Runner. It's more credits than the Ridge Runner, and we'll get into why. So you start off with a power ram, which adds +2 strength, 2 AP, and 2 damage to any vehicle impact in its front arc. You also get a hybrid drive, a mix of wheels and tracks, counting as both wheeled and tracked, and may apply which set of rules used when interacting with difficult terrain. You get 2 body upgrade slots, 1 drive, 1 engine, and it has the upgrades of ablative armour, extra armour, reinforced armour, redundant drive systems, tyre claws for +1 handling, engine shell, and a gliss injector. Now, gliss injector, I would potentially give it for that extra movement. I'd give it tyre claws for +1 handling to make it 4 plus handling. Obviously, if I have the credits with this, you're immediately being 125 creds once you add the road crew. I imagine you're not going to add scum racers because you've got access to your own thug crewman or crewwoman. You also get the weapons options are twin link bolters, which are incredibly savage. For 65 creds, it's 10 creds more than a normal ganger is paying for a bolt gun, making it twin linked, just incredibly good. Twin link grenade launchers with frag and crack, 75 creds, really, really good. Body spikes for ramming people, booby trap fuel tanks, wouldn't bother, and wheel scythes. Now, wheel scythes, I actually prefer that. You're going to be ramming people, so I'd much prefer the body spikes. So that is the Goliath Mauler. I don't know why I'm turning over for extra rules there. I think it's a good addition. So massive shock horror here. I'm not actually the biggest fan of the model, but I like the vehicle. I like how it fits the Goliaths, how they move about. I don't know what I'd do to fix the model, so I'm not going to really stick on it, but I think it's great rules. It really fits the Goliaths, what you would expect their playstyle to be with vehicles. And yeah, I do think it's a good addition to the range. I'd just probably convert my own from what else there is available. So that is the end of the book. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. It's quite a short book in terms of content that is appropriate to go over for a review without spoiling everything. As I said, I would recommend it to Escher players, Goliath players, and arbitrators. So I think this, as I said, I think the scenarios are good. The campaign, I think, is good. I don't think it's as good as the Ruination campaign, which was an absolute high point for me. But I like the restrictions that they have started imposing in these campaigns to make people think differently rather than just what is my standard 1,000 credit list that I'm just going to roll out every time I go into a campaign. So if you like this video and you want to see more of them, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. It lets me know in the analytics that you want this sort of content. If you really want to help the channel that little bit more, there is a Patreon link below where you can get yourself access to the Discord where you can just chat rubbish all day long with us, as well as getting a bounty tray. If you want to get new releases from Games Workshop at 30% off, don't forget to check out the War Office link that will be linked below. That helps support the channel. And big shout out to my local shop, Monstrous Light, who I know are running their own Necromunda campaigns at the moment. So if you are in the Greater Manchester area, check them out. Also, War Offices Greater Manchester, go and check them out, as well as their online store. And I will see you guys next time in a bit.